Hey, hello everyone. This is Naveen here. I hope you all are doing good. So, as you can see, today I'm going to talk about indexes in MongoDB. This is again a continuation of MongoDB administration series, which I'm doing. In my previous video, we have discussed about TTL index, so time to live index. So I thought it is good to cover indexes in general in MongoDB after that, so that it would be like a sort of continuation. So let's see like why do we need indexes and how this is going to play a crucial role in MongoDB performance. Okay. So like any traditional database or any database systems, like MongoDB also has a set of index options which we could use. So before even we talk about types of indexes or those things, right? So let's try to understand why do we even need index. Okay. So if we have to talk about indexes in general, like uh, you can think of a classic example like any phone directory or a book, okay, where you will have indexes pointing towards each chapter. Okay, so basically what we are trying to do is like indexes is going to sort your data in a proper order depending on whatever order you choose to, and it will be faster for you to access the data. So to give you a easy, simple example, okay, just think like I have different set of data in my notepad. Maybe let me just zoom it. Let's say like we have some random numbers, okay, and each of these numbers are mapped to maybe some value or something. At present, this data is not sorted, okay, and you can think of scenario where I want to fetch the details which is having this ID. You can think this column as an ID, and let's say I want to fetch what all IDs are with 13. Okay, in this case, let's say you if you don't have any index and your data is scattered, so what you will do, like just like in a simpler way, you will just do a control F and you will search. So what this basically does, it's going to scan one by one and see where do I have 13, where do I have 13, and it's going to highlight that. For example, if I have to look for 10, so I'll just do this. It's going to scan. So in this case, it has to go through this all of this data to check where and all or which on which row I have ID 10 and then highlight it. But whereas if you have this similar data, let's say for example, sorted how many tens I have two tens, then I have two 12s, then I have two 13 and one 14 and one 15. Let's say for example the same data set whatever we have in the top, if it is in a sorted manner like what we have in the bottom, okay, so I don't have to scan or go through this entire data set to see okay where do I have 10. Okay, so all I have to do is just directly check and find, since I know like my data is already sorted, I'll just be querying only these two, and once the condition is met, I'm going to come out. Okay, so this is just a very simple example of how indexes plays a role. So it's not like again like every time you're going to have this in an ascending order of sort, so it could be in the reverse also. Okay, this is just an example which I just wanted to show you, like in a simpler terms how indexes is going to help. So think about a system where you are going to deal with millions of data or TBs of data, right? So it's not a good practice in general where you are going to scan each and every data or a column, I mean each and every row or in MongoDB or document to find okay where all I have this value. So this is what indexing is going to solve. So it's going to basically sort our order, and what benefit we get by sorting this order is like your query performance is going to be much more faster. So I don't have to read too many datas to fetch my result. Okay, so now coming back to the MongoDB index. So whatever we saw similar, like same applies here. So let's say like you have a collection with multiple data. So if by default the data is not going to be sorted, let's say you are entering some random values, it could be ID or something. In MongoDB, you can define whether you want to sort it in ascending, or you want to sort it in descending is something you can decide. So whether it is ascending or descending, you can decide depending on uh, your requirement. So especially like when we are going to have an index on a single field, this doesn't matter actually, irrespective of what order you choose. So MongoDB would be able to go through that index path and fetch the data. Okay. Now with this basic understanding of indexes, let's quickly see like what are the different types of indexes we have, and then probably like we'll go to the Mongo sample data set, and we'll try to see how this really looks, how you can create an index, how you can assess the performance. We'll see how to view the execution plan of a given query. Those things and all we are going to see. Okay. Now, so these are the different types of indexes you have in MongoDB. Okay, so first one is a single field index, where you are going to create an index on just a single field, as the name says suggests, right? So it's going to be an index on a specific field only, or you can think of a specific um, column, okay, which you will be having in your document or in your collection. So it's just going to have only one field in it. Next is compound index, where you can have more than one field. Okay, so that is what compound index basically, because you might have queries where you might have to filter on different conditions. Okay, so when I say filter, like usually like the index, the column or the field on which you are going to create the index, you would be choosing like where it is highly selective. Okay, when we say highly selective, okay, anyways, like when we talk, like when we switch to the demo, I'll talk more about this. Okay, that is about compound index. And next one is multi-key index. Multi-key index is nothing but like which you have it when you want to query your array data. Okay, and geospatial is to query spatial data in MongoDB. Next one is text index, where it is kind of a, where you want to search for specific sort of text pattern or something. That's when you use text indexes. Hashed indexes is nothing but like you will, whatever on whatever field you are creating an index, so for that given value, MongoDB is going to create a hashed value, and depending on that hashed value, it's going to filter your data. So this might be more helpful when you are having queries where you write a condition where a field in, and you want to look for a specific set of values in it. So in those kind of situations, this hashed index is going to be helpful. And the last one is clustered index. So this is something which was brought in MongoDB 5.3. So clustered indexes are introduced from there. So these are the different types of indexes. Maybe we'll see each and everything separately. Now let's see like what is this single field index. Okay, so maybe instead of explaining it here, I will directly switch my screen to the Mongo shell. So this time, I don't know like how many of you have started using MongoDB Atlas. This is one of the amazing product. Okay, So it was easy to deploy, and for this demo I'm going to use the MongoDB Atlas only. So I have already deployed a single node. I have already deployed a cluster. So let's click on connect, and there are different ways to access this your database. I'll go with MongoDB shell and get my connection string. Let me switch over, and let's give this. I have to supply my password, and that's it. So now I am in my MongoDB Atlas primary replica, and this is my database to which it is connected. So now if I say show databases, so these are the databases I have. Now for this demo, let's use this sample training. Okay, let's see like what data it has. I have switched it. Let's do show collections. So these are the different set of collections which we have. Maybe I'll use this trips. Let's see uh, how the data looks like. I'll just do a query of like top one just to show you how the data looks like. So this is what we have in this collection. Okay, this is how my document is. So I have trip duration, then I have a bike id, and then start station id, start station name, end station id, end station name, and user type, it's like subscriber, and birth of year, all these things we have. Okay, good. So now before we run any queries, let's understand like how to find what indexes I have in this collection. Okay, so what I can do is db.trips get indexes is one method which you can call, which is going to list you like how many indexes I have. So now we haven't created any index as such. Okay, but if you would have noticed, like it says I already have an index on underscore id column. Okay, so what this basically does is like by default for underscore id column, MongoDB is going to create an index. For example, let's try creating a new collection. No, create collection, and let's say new collection. Just for the sake of demo, I just want to create a new collection where we haven't entered any data. Okay, now let's see, um, new collection get indexes. Let's see. So you see, like we just created a collection, but still MongoDB has created a default index on underscore id field. So that is how MongoDB works actually. By default, when you create a collection, you have an index created, which you can see it here. Okay, now so we'll use this trips collection. Okay, what we can do is maybe we can use the same bike id and write a filter. Okay, search based on this condition. Let's quickly do this, and now I'm going to filter based on the bike id. Okay, let's say my bike id is 22794. Instead of running the whole query, let's quickly see like how what is my count looks like. Okay, I have only two records, which is okay, and let me run. Now, so in order to understand how this query got executed, we have something called explain. Okay, now this is going to tell me how the query got executed, whether it was a index scan or a collection scan is something this is going to say. So now this is the query we ran, and we are doing an explain on for that query. So this is the query which is parsed. This is the condition which we have supplied, and if you come down, it says winning under winning plan. You can see the stages collection scan, and this is the filter we have set. Direction is forward. Now we can see like this went for a collection scan, okay, to get much more insights like what has happened, how many documents it has to scan and all those stuff. We have something called execution stats. Let's quickly see what do we have in that. So this is going to give you much more detailed output like of how the query got executed. Now, so this is where we have executed this command. If you come down, you can see here. So total docs examined is 10,000, and it has returned only 2. So you can think of the notepad, that example which I showed you in the notepad. So just to fetch only 2 records out of the 10,000, so it has to go and scan and read entire 10,000 documents and then return my output, which from a performance standpoint is not a good thing. So because unnecessarily, like, we have to spend a lot of time, and it's not a good thing, right? So if we have an index, so things are going to be much more in a different way. Okay, so let's try to create an index on the bike id column or the field, and then we will run the same query and see how the data looks like. Okay, so how do you create an index? Is just nothing but create index, and you have to say on which field you're going to create. I'll say bike id, just to let's quickly check the name. Yeah, bike id, and you're going to say on what order I'm going to sort my data. So either it can be 1 or -1. So 1 indicates like it is going to sort in ascending order, -1 indicates it's going to sort in descending order. For this example, it's okay. Since it is a single field index, it doesn't matter like whether I go with 1 or -1. So at the end of the day, it's going to sort the data. That's what it is going to do. Now we have successfully created an index, and if you see this naming format, MongoDB automatically takes it. So it's going to be the field name whatever you have supplied, and on what underscore what sort order you have choose. If it is ascending, it's going to be 1. If it is going to be descending, it's going to be bike id underscore -1. So that by looking at the index name, you will know like how the index is actually defined. Okay, so that is one advantage by looking at this naming convention, you can understand. Now let's go and run the same thing. Maybe we'll take a look at the execution stats to see now how the data looks like. Okay, let's go up all the way to the top. Now if you see, it says it has done an index scan, whereas if I go a little bit up, in this case it was a collection scan. Now after creating the index, you could see like now we have an index scan which is good. Okay, the other parameter which we checked was how many documents were examined last time. It was like 10,000, but now if you see, it has to examine only 2 documents, and it has written only 2 documents, which means I didn't spend more time reading the data which is not at all required for this query. So that is one bigger advantage. Since this is like not a very huge data set, you might not be seeing a big performance difference, but in case of a real-time scenario, this is going to play a huge role. Having a proper index is going to make your system perform better. Okay, so this is how like you can implement index. Okay, Now, what other details I want to show you is, so here this is going to tell you like how many docs you have scanned, how many keys it has examined, and how much rows it returned. And let's quickly check this output. Okay, now let me remove this. Let's say I'm have an index on this bike ID. Okay, now I'm going to add one more condition. Okay, maybe let's go with trip duration. So I'll say, let's take this, and I'll say my trip duration is 3 to 6. Okay, now let's run this command. This has returned only one record. Okay, now if I go and see an execution plan, so what do you think? It's going to just pause and think whether it's going to use this index, whatever we have in bike ID. Like, what do you think? Like, how many documents it is going to scan, and how many rows? So we obviously know it returned just one row, but how many documents it has to examine, like for this query? Can you just think? Let me do this. Execution stats. Okay, so before I show you, just think about, like, for a second, how many documents it would have scanned and returned this single row. Just think for a second, and before I show you, see if you can figure it out. Okay, let's go and see. Okay, what do we see here? Okay, now you can see the total docs it has examined is 2, and total keys it has examined is still 2, but it returned only 1. Okay, still it was able to do an index scan. Okay, now let's change this query. Okay, um, let's remove this. Okay, what do you think about this query? Whether it's going to use the index or it's not going to use the index? Let's try to do an explain plan, and let's see. Maybe I just want to see whether it's going to use the index or not, right? So I just did an explain. Okay, now if you see, it has gone for a collection scan. Okay, so since the field on which we have created index is bike ID, and we don't have any index on trip duration, so it has to do a collection scan to see what all trips have the duration of 326 set. Okay, that is what has happened in this scenario, and it has gone for a collection scan. Now let's go back to this query. Okay, let's try to add this. I have just interchanged this order. So first is trip duration and second one is bike ID. Now, okay, so I want you to take a guess and see whether it is going to go for a scan, or whether it's going to go for a collection scan, or it is going to go for an index scan. Okay, just think about it And if you have managed to find the answer, or if you have guessed something, please do post your answer in the comment section. So we are going to continue this topic in the next video. We are going to explore more about how MongoDB is going to use the indexes, how you, so with all these examples, it's going to help you in creating right indexes when you work in MongoDB. So just give it a try and let me know in the comment section your answer or your thoughts, whether it's going to use the index scan or collection scan. And also please do let me know your feedback, so that really helps in giving me a better content, and that also motivates me to make better videos. Okay, so that's it for today. So soon you would be seeing a continuation on this wherever we have left. So that's all guys, thank you and bye.